The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
What were you asked to do?
Once I arrived, once they pulled everybody out of the apartment, I was requested to observe and to translate.
Did you do so?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I want to ask you about all four individuals out there. First of all, did you have the opportunity to converse in Spanish with a Diego Ibarra?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did you have the opportunity to converse in Spanish with a Rosebelly Flores?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have the opportunity to converse in Spanish with Argenis Ibarra?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have the opportunity to speak in Spanish to Jose Ibarra?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any difficulties understanding their Spanish?
No.
Did they seem to have any difficulties understanding your Spanish?
By them responding to my questions and us conversing, I would say that no, they understood me very well.
The person named Jose Ibarra, did you question him that day and ask him some questions about injuries that were observed on him?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What language did you ask him those questions?
It would be in Spanish.
And what language did he respond back to you?
In Spanish.
And at this point, before we get into the statements, Your Honor, just for the record, defense counsel has not filed for a Jackson Deno, and I'll let her take it from there.
We will not be raising a Jackson Deno issue at this time.
Thank you. When you were conversing or speaking with Jose Ibarra that day and asking him about injuries, about how close were you to him?
I would say roughly between 3 to 4 feet.
And prior to, and if you could sit a little into that microphone, thank you. Prior to you asking him questions about his injuries, were the four residents of that apartment allowed to kind of move around, and were they talking to one another?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they were speaking to one another, laughing. Yeah.
And how would you describe the vibe between them and what was going on at this time?
It seemed very relaxed. There was a lot of laughing, giggling, especially when they were talking about how they were woken up, pulled out of the apartment, smoking. So I would say the vibe or the atmosphere was very relaxed and calm.
And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, I'm showing you what's been already admitted as State's Exhibit 177, and have you seen it? And you know what, it's already admitted, so I'm going to show you something from it. Sorry, it's had it. But you have seen 177?
Yes, I have.
And what is it?
It's going to be axon footage.
From your conversation with Jose Ibarra?
That's correct, yes.
On the 23rd day of February 2024?
Yes, ma'am. And it would be Sergeant Epps' axon footage.
Okay. So you had footage and he had footage, right?
Correct.
All right. And do you see yourself in this footage? I'm going to publish the third video in States 177. Do you see yourself right there?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got to toggle over. And this may be a little difficult to do. Hopefully you're going to be able to hear it. But what I would like you to do for the record is translate to us exactly what you asked him and exactly what he said back to you. And if you have problems hearing it and you need to hear it again, just let me know and we'll rewind it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Hold on a second. Well, we have no volume at all, so hold on just one moment. I'll start it over. Okay. All right, I want to start it over. There we go.
My friend, can you do me a favor?
All right, let's say that again.
My friend, can you do me a favor?
Okay, so you said, my friend, can you do me a favor? Mm-hmm. And why did you ask the question in that manner?
It's just my mannerisms. When I speak Spanish, I'm very respectful to folks. It's just the way I was raised, and it's Latin American culture.
All right.
I asked him, I have a question, why, and then I point to to my left knuckle, why is this red? He responds by saying that because of the cold.
Because of the what?
The cold. I asked him what happened there, and he...
And for the record, we're at 15:20 of the video, and he is pointing to his left arm?
It would be his right bicep.
His right arm, sorry. I was a little backwards. His right bicep. Okay, and you asked what?
I asked what happened there, and he said that he had a scratch, but he didn't exactly explain from where or how.
What happened there? What happened there?
I asked him about another scratch on where his left wrist meets his left forearm. If you could actually just repeat that portion right there.
What happened there?
I asked him what happened there.
Okay, what you said what?
What happened there? Pause it, please. First he says, I don't have anything there, there's nothing there, and then he starts pointing at it again, saying that, oh, it's just a scratch.
Okay. So when he said that there was nothing there, could you see something there?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
What could you see?
It looked like I don't know exactly the time, but I could see there was still a little bit of pus in it.
Pus?
So it didn't look very old.
Okay.
But I could see that there was a scratch on his wrist. I asked him to raise up his sleeves.
Okay.
Reading enough of the red knuckles to the bone. And the scratch over there is
Do you hit the face or anything?
was it that pegado en la boca?
No.
I asked him, were you struck in the mouth? He responded to me that no, he was not struck in the mouth, and that it's the cold air on his lips, that he uses chapstick. I asked him to raise up his hair. I also asked him to raise up both sides of his hair.
What's your forehead red?
What did you observe when he raised up his hair?
I could see that there was a red mark going across, like as if he had been wearing a hat. He explains to me that he wears a hat, a gorra, a hat, and continue.
What kind of hat does he wear?
I then ask him what type of hat, and he motions over to Diego, who's sitting to the right of him, that it's a hat very similar to that one that was on Diego's head.
Thank you.
And does that complete your conversation with Jose Ibarra about his injuries?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
I want to ask you, at some point, does he use the word for nail in Spanish?
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Okay, do you use that word?
In Spanish?
Yes.
The nail, so the word in Spanish for nail, as in like a fingernail, would be, excuse me, sorry, I apologize, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Yeah.
But it would be uña.
Okay.
But I didn't hear that.
Okay.
When he didn't respond that to me.
He did not.
Mm-hmm.
What was the question that you asked with uña that he did not respond back to?
Well, I had asked him how did he receive those scratches, and he didn't give me a clear answer at all.
Hold on. Okay. wanted to have you hear this one section. Corporal Sayan. Okay, hold on.
Okay. Really good enough to the red knuckles to the bone. And the scratch over there is
You get hit in the face or anything?
Oh, is it that knocked down over?
No.
Sorry, there we go. We're back at 15:19. If you could just listen to this again.
What happened to his arm? What happened there? What happened there?
All right, did you use the word uña in those questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What word did you use?
It sounds like I didn't really use a word. I asked what had happened there.
Keep it up. What happened there?
And his answer to the specific one about the left wrist was what?
Well, first he said where.
Okay.
I mean, the way it looked like he was acting as if there was nothing there, but I could clearly see there was a scratch.
Okay. At first, that's what he said, where, and then what?
And then he pointed at it, and again, he doesn't really tell me how he got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. One moment, Your Honor. One final thing. Corporal Sayan, the phrase in Spanish, yo tengo, what does that mean literally?
Yo tengo would exactly translate to I have.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Next question,
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
This all occurred on February morning,
Yes, ma'am.
and I believe you said you arrived around 8:45 in the morning,
8:45-ish. Yeah.
and this was a little bit after that, but still in the morning.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Ibarra was wearing a short sleeve shirt
Yes, he was.
and shorts
Yes.
and slides,
I would say so.
and he didn't have any sort of jacket or other covering.
No, ma'am.
All right, just a moment. And when you asked him about a hat, and he gestures towards, Mr. Diego Ibarra, he doesn't say, I wore that hat. He says, I wore a hat like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
All right. No further questions.
read record.
No, sir.
Need to excuse.
Yes, sir.
Yo tango, translated I have. Those words are really important because we heard those words on Laken Riley's 911 call. But remember, she didn't say those words. Someone else did.
This is the Court TV podcast.
There's a bus stop here.
There is.
Can you point to it with a pointer? There's a pointer right in front of you.
Right.
And in this frame, where's building S?
Building S is over here to the left.
And the road that we see that there's now a red line on, what road is that?
This part here is Village Avenue Extension. This is Rogers Road where they come to connect at the bus stop.
She cannot hear you. I can tell by the way that she's shaking her head. You're going to have to say that one more time into the microphone. Just say it again.
The road on the right is Village Avenue Extension. The road on the left is Rogers Road, and they come together at the bus stop.
In this frame, do you see a pathway to the Celia at Azul apartment complex?
I do.
Where is the pathway? Is that where the individual is coming out of at this point that we see in the frame?
Yes,
And is there another pathway to that apartment complex?
there is.
Can you show us that one as well? Okay, so that's further back. And if a person were to continue walking down Rogers Road, where would you end up?
At the very end,
Yes.
it makes takes a turn to the right and it goes down to Millage Avenue.
And is there a bigger road that is near here? Like, where's 10?
Loop 10 is back here.
Okay, thank you. This bus stop, is that a University of Georgia bus stop?
It is.
I am going to pause at 6:53. In this frame at 6:53, do you see apartment 114 in Building S?
I do.
Can you please point it out to the court? So it's the lit up door at the bottom floor of Building S.
It's the southernmost tip of the building.
I'm going to stop it at 6:54. First of all, in the entire hour that this individual is around this area, does he ever talk to anyone?
No.
Ever engage with any person?
No.
Do you see from 6:52 to 7:54 this individual go to the Building S door?
Yes.
In that time frame, how many times does that person go to the door? And we're going to see them each time.
6 times.
And can you see on your video of those 6 times how many times that person actually opens the screen door?
Twice.
And the nature of this footage, how would you describe this footage? Is it great, grainy? I mean, how would you describe this?
At times it is good quality, at other times it is a little grainy.
Why is that? Is that just the function of the camera?
Yeah, it's connected cellularly, so sometimes when there's motion, it the quality gets better, but then when there's no motion, it kind of, the quality disappears a little bit.
And did you make screenshots of this still video at some point in your investigation?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. State's Exhibit 85, State's Exhibit 84. Do you recognize those items?
I do.
What are they?
There are pictures of the individual that was seen walking around the building.
And are those some of the screenshots that you made?
Yes.
The state would move to admit states 285 and 284.
Any objection? They're admitted.
And were you all, or were you, in your investigation, attempting to identify the clothing and items that this person was wearing?
Yes.
And in your review of this video, were you able to see, first of all, gloves?
Yes.
Can you point to those? What color are they?
Black.
Were you able to see a cup?
Yes.
Can you point to that? And then were you able to see a bag? And it may not be best in this video at this point, but in one of your still shots, can you see a bag?
Yes, I can.
Can you please, I'm going to just show it to the court. Is it where my finger is?
Yes.
Okay, that just means the way to do it. Oh, is that a better view of the bag now?
Yes, it is.
All right, at 654. At 658, what door did that individual just walk by?
114.
What are we seeing at 701?
We see him walking up to 114, and he's standing in front of the door. Now he's opening this outer screen door of the apartment. Now he walks back behind the building.
And now our next...
This footage of him lurking around early in the morning. Remember, this is 6:54 a.m. those clips we're looking at here. So we know Laken Riley goes on the run a little bit after 9 a.m. This is supportive of the prosecution's opening statement where they said Jose Ibarra was out hunting for females, dressed in all black, lurking around. What a creep. This is predatory behavior we're seeing right here, and it's all captured on video. We're gonna hit a break. When we come back, you're gonna see video of Laken Riley running on the trail cam, a lot of emotion coming from the courtroom as members of the gallery are seeing her alive and well in the minutes before she was murdered.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We're seeing evidence that supports the state of Georgia's contention that Jose Ibarra was a predator out hunting for women on February 22nd, 2024. He was dressed in all black, had a hoodie up over his head, the black hat on, the Adidas hat. We've seen black pants, and he's creeping around an area that we're going to see in a moment. Laken Riley comes running on. Now, 7:54 a.m. was the timestamp on the last bit of video, and you see him go back into the building. He ducks down, and he's not seen on that video anymore. Now, let's look what we see. We see Laken Riley out on that jog at 9:05 a.m.
What do we see here at 7:54?
7:54, he had, from that 51, he had gone back behind the building and come back to the front of the building, and he was standing at the door.
And can you see him open the door here
Yes,
at 7:54?
yes.
And what does he do right there at 7:54?
He is ducking down.
What direction is he going now?
Back behind the building.
And we just lost 2 minutes. We're now at 7:56. So you described he ducks down at 7:54.
Correct.
He goes to the back of the building.
Correct.
And then you don't see him again until 7:56. Is that right? So there's 2 minutes that we don't see in this clip, because we're not going to sit here for all this time, where you don't see him on camera.
That's right.
So you see him again at 7:56. And in which direction is he going now?
He's going south,
Towards?
the IM fields. And here he disappears into the woods. There's no path there, just woods that he goes into.
Okay, and I'm going to stop it here. So in this time period from 6:52 to 7:54, we've just watched all of that. Do you see, first of all, is this person alone or with someone?
Alone.
And have you watched in all of your hours of video review in this case, have you seen Diego Ibarra?
No.
Okay. In this time period?
No.
Okay. Have you seen him before?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you swapped him, and we're going to talk about that, right?
Correct.
Do you know what Diego Ibarra looks like?
I do.
And have you looked for him in all of these videos that you have reviewed?
Yes.
And on the 22nd day of February 2024, you ever see Diego Ibarra on this trail cam?
No.
Now I want to move on to the other clips, and then we're going to go back to your last clip that you made, okay? So what time are we at now?
9:05 a.m.
What part of the trail are we on?
This is Millage Avenue Extension as it's coming towards the bus stop.
What time? You said 9:05 a.m.?
Yes,
And do you recognize that individual we see in the screen?
I do.
Who is that?
That is Laken Riley.
Do you see what, if anything, she has in her left hand?
She is holding her phone in her left hand.
What direction is she running?
She's running south.
And was that also in the direction of the IM fields?
It is. She now went east towards the I.M. Phillips and the railroad tracks.
At 9:06 and 49 seconds?
Yes.
Okay. And now we are at a different time period. What time period are we at?
11:36 a.m.
What part of the trail are we on?
This is Milledge Avenue Extension.
And do you recognize those two individuals that we now see in the frame at 11:36 a.m.?
I do.
Have you met them before?
I have.
And what are their names?
Sophia Magana and Lily Steiner.
And the dog is?
Champ.
Okay. Is that Sophia's dog?
It is.
Which direction are they going?
They're going south.
Now what time are we at?
11:55 a.m.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
What are we looking at on your first page?
That's just the title page of the PowerPoint.
Second page, if you could tell us line 1 where my finger is. Can you read it, or do I need to give you a copy of it up there?
I can read it.
You can read it, great. If you could tell us, first of all, what was the time of Laken's last outgoing communication from her phone?
It was the 911 call.
Okay. Before the 911 call.
It was a text message to her mother.
Okay, you're going to have to speak into the
It
microphone.
was a text message
Okay, well, a text message to who?
to her mother.
At what time?
At 8:55.
Okay, and do we see that here where my pen is?
Yes.
And what is the text?
It says, "Good morning, about to go for a run. If you're free to talk."
And did she in fact call her mother?
She did.
At what time?
At 9:03:44.
And between 9:03 and 9:11, is there any activity in her phone?
No.
Okay. At 9:11, what happens?
She makes a 911 call.
All right, and we heard about that already yesterday about the SOS function, so I'm not going to ask you about that. So it looks like though your next page is about the 911 call, correct?
Correct.
All right. And did 911 in fact call her back?
They did.
How many times?
Twice.
What is the last text message that was read on her phone?
It was at 9:02 a.m.
And her phone was locked. Tell us a little bit about that. What time was it locked?
It was locked at 09:03:57, which was immediately after she made the phone call to her mother.
All right. And after the 9:03 phone call to her mother, the next activity is a 911 call?
Correct.
That we've discussed? And then you have that the phone was not unlocked again until forensically analyzed. What do you mean by that?
She never unlocked her phone through facial recognition again until we obtained that phone that night.
And extracted data from the phone?
Correct.
What time were the 2 911 calls incoming to her after she called 911?
One was at 09:12 and 21 seconds and 09:12 and 39 seconds.
Were either one of those calls from 911 into Laken Riley's phone answered?
No.
At some point, did she get an incoming call at 9:24?
She did.
And who was that incoming call from?
Her mother.
Is that call answered?
No.
Is she then receiving texts from her family members?
Correct.
What are the time of those texts? First one down here at the bottom.
9:37:38.
And what is the text? Who is it from?
Her mother.
And the content?
Call me when you can.
Is that text read or returned?
It's not read.
9:51 a.m.
She receives a call from her mother.
Is that call answered?
It is not.
9:53 a.m.
She received another call from her mother.
Is that call answered?
It is not.
9:58 a.m.
She received a text message from her mother saying, "You're making me nervous, not answering while you're out running. Are you okay?"
Is that text read?
It is not.
Is that text answered?
It is not.
Next call at 11:04 a.m. incoming from whom?
From her mother.
Is that call answered?
It is not.
11:12 a.m.
She received a call from her mother.
Is that call answered?
It is not.
11:19 a.m. an incoming call from who?
From her sister.
Is that call answered?
No.
11:47 a.m. incoming text.
From her mother says, "Please call me. I'm worried sick about you."
Is that text read?
It is not.
Is that text responded to?
It is not.
12:07 p.m.
She received a phone call from her mother that was not answered.
12:20 p.m.
She received a phone call from her stepfather that was not answered.
And finally, were you able to determine when she was on her run if she was listening to music on her phone?
Yes, she was listening to Spotify.
Okay. What is Spotify for the record?
It's an app where you can listen to music on your phone.
And just a few more questions, Sergeant. Were you the affiant on the arrest warrant for Jose Ibarra?
I was.
What was the date and time of his arrest warrant for the murder of Laken Riley?
It was February 23rd at 19:58, which is 7:58 p.m.
And that was signed by what judge?
Superior Court Judge Norris.
Norris?
Norris.
And in your affidavit for his arrest, did you note his height and his weight?
I did.
What is his height?
He's listed as 5'7".
And his weight?
He's listed at 156.
And at some point in your investigation into this case, did you have the opportunity to take a DNA sample in the form of a swab from the cheeks of an individual named Diego Ibarra?
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that, and while you're doing that, I'm going to hand you what has been marked as States 281.
I made a search warrant, and it was signed by the judge on February 26th at 3:20 p.m. It was executed the following day around 10 o'clock.
How did you execute it? Just tell us what you did. Sorry.
I met with Diego Ibarra at the jail using gloves. I used a long Q-tip essentially and swabbed the inside of his cheeks.
Okay. And after you swabbed Diego Ibarra in that manner, did you seal those swabs?
I did.
And were they delivered to the crime lab sealed?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
And the state moves to admit States 281.
Any objection to 281?
No, sir.
281 submitted.
The witness.
Okay, that's the end of the direct examination of this witness, and boy, how just unbelievably emotional this witness. You could hear the sniffles in the courtroom because you're watching Laken Riley's last moments before her death, and first on the video, and then the correspondence between her and her mother, and then finally just her mother trying to get a hold of her, getting worried, saying, "I'm worried sick about you." Let's bring in Corey Pegues. He's a retired NYPD deputy inspector and author of Once a Cop. Corey, she didn't do anything wrong here. Like, she's not running at 2 in the morning. She's not putting herself out there. She's in contact with her mother. It is hard to get your head around what happened to this young woman.
Yeah, good morning, Ted. It's very hard to get your head around what happened to this woman, but it's ironic you say that she didn't do anything. It's daytime. So let me just let the audience know, there's times I drive around in New York, and I see trails in wooded areas. Just let me be very clear. When a woman is running morning, noon, or night by themselves, at any time running alone, it could be possibly dangerous. I would always advise a woman, if they're running, to try to run with a partner. Having somebody on the phone can't really save you. Only thing it can do is send help that way. It's very unfortunate what happened to this young lady. For her mom to sit there and hear this testimony of all these different times I wrote down that she texted, she called, she said, "Please call me. I'm worried about you. Call me, call me, call me." Something was going on with her child, and she couldn't help at that point. So, yeah, it's very unfortunate, but I would suggest to any woman that's running in a wooded, secluded area, if it's 6 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, 8 at night, you should run as a partner. And I'm not blaming Laken.
No. What does it tell you about Jose Ibarra, if indeed he is that person, which, well, let's face it, there's overwhelming evidence in this case. What does it tell you about the brazen nature of this crime, and then in his head is, like, I guess he just doesn't care. I mean, there are people walking around. You saw kids with backpacks. This is not a deserted area. There's activity, yet he has the gall and just the impulse to go after her in such a risky manner. What does that tell you about his mind?
Well, listen, he's a depraved mind individual. You have to understand these people that sexual abusers, rapists, or have that in their mindset that they're going to do something to somebody, they're going to do it. I mean, look, he was peering in the window of another college student's dorm or apartment. So he was hell-bent on committing a sexual assault that day. He wanted it at that time, and no one was going to stop him. It didn't matter where he was or who was around, but he tried to make sure that he can get her in a secluded area while she was running on the trail, and thought that nobody would find out. But he was wrong, because, fortunately we was able to grab this individual and hopefully charge him for this crime, and he get a lot of years in prison. But sick mind individuals that's hell-bent on doing something to somebody, it doesn't really matter who's around. You can't really stop them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's overwhelming evidence at this point. We've been watching this trial play out, and you know, whatever you want. You want the forensics, you want the video, it's all there.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.